I was bedridden for 18 hours a day. It was a struggle to get through med school, obviously. And I developed a whole bunch of chronic pain syndromes also throughout that time period. And so that's what got me started, because conventional medicine wasn't answering my questions. It wasn't, how do I heal from this? That was my question. I was like, how do I heal from this? And I guess maybe other people don't ask that, and they're supposed to live with the disease. And I was like, I was not going to live with this disease. And I knew that in my heart. I knew I could heal. I just had to figure out how. And I couldn't get the answers from conventional medicine. And so that's what led me into, integrative functional medicine. And that's exactly what my spiritual mentor taught me. That every time we'd start a session, he would be like, Anna, he'd always call me Dr. Anna. Dr. Anna, this is all about getting back to your authentic self, your true you. And that's the healing. I was like, okay.
Folks, that was Dr. Anna Esparham, this week's guest, who is a triple board certified physician in integrative medicine, acupuncture, and pediatrics. From sheer determination to heal herself of the chronic pains she had to endure as a young adult, how did Anna go from surviving to thriving? You'll want to tune in to hear Anna's story and how she helps and coaches others to heal themselves too. Let's cue the intro. Welcome to the Boom Vision Podcast, the show that empowers you to live an enriching life physically, mentally, and spiritually. I am your host, Benjamin Ye, and I created this podcast to give you perspectives on how to strengthen your mindset so that you can build optimal health, create aligned wealth, and connect with your higher self. It's all interconnected. Let's get to work. Folks, I'm excited to share an upcoming workshop that I'm co-hosting with Dr. Yvonne Farendale-Villarino, who was a guest on my show in episode 16 and 34. We are collaborating on a 2-day live family constellations workshop on February 11th and 12th. The theme is connecting your past and present to rewrite your future. If you want to find out more about this workshop or interested in attending this event, please DM me on Instagram at Benjamin Ye or contact me via my website. Now let's get back to our show. Don't turn away. Keep your gaze on the bandaged place. That's where the light enters you. This quote was by Rumi, a Sufi mystic. Welcome to episode 40 of the Boom Vision Podcast. I'm excited to share today's interview with my new friend, Dr. Anna Esparham. I first heard Anna in a guest interview on our mutual friend, Heather Fisher-Page's show called the Integra Podcast. My intuition was telling me to connect with Anna because I just knew I had to have her on Boom Vision, and I'm so glad we connected through Heather. As a brief background, Dr. Anna Esparham, MD, and founder of Health is PowHer, is a nationally recognized physician who healed herself from multiple chronic conditions, from near death to issues with chronic pains and autoimmune diseases. She is now a coach helping women heal themselves for good. Dr. Anna hosts the Health is PowHer's podcast, empowering women to take back their health. She has also conducted several research studies and is published in peer-reviewed medical journals. She has been featured in the New York Times, Shape Magazine, Healthy Children, and more. So without further ado, here's Anna. Dr. Anna Esparham, welcome to the Boom Vision Podcast. I really appreciate you joining us today.
I am so excited and ecstatic to be here and talk to all your listeners today. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And so I guess just starting off, Anna, can you share your origin story? I love to hear what has led to what you do today, as well as what you're doing going forward.
Yeah. And I actually wanted to tell you, I love that you have the origin story in the first part because it's like, I love superheroes, as you know. And so I'm like, oh man, this makes me feel like Wonder Woman. I have my own origin story, but
Love
we
it.
all do. And so it's so important. Our story is important to share. And so, that's why I love your podcast. Yeah. So I am a physician. I have a lot of certifications and I learned all different kinds of methods and therapies outside of just traditional conventional medicine as a pediatrician by nature. And then I went on to get extra training in integrative and functional medicine, acupuncture, hypnosis, aromatherapy, medical intuition, all kinds of alternative complementary therapies as well. And so, but how I really started out was I wanted to be a wildlife biologist.
Really?
Yeah, but there weren't any jobs. And so this was in University of Colorado in Boulder. And so again, this probably divine timing is that, I wasn't meant to be a wildlife biologist then. And I studied wildlife biology. That was my main degree. We'd go out in the field and trap rabbits and, track them, make sure the long-eared owls weren't declining in number and, so on and so forth. But so there weren't any jobs. And the only thing to consider was like go on to become a professor. And I was so not wanting to study anymore, which is weird because I am a professor now. And so I studied even harder where I'm at after med school. But anyway, it never works out how you want it to. But I got into the healthcare system because I first started off when I was a teenager. I got this really severe case of peritonitis. It's a bad infection in the belly, like it'll kill you typically. And
Whoa.
so it was from appendicitis. It was from this juice that you get at a store. I don't think they're out anymore. And it was contaminated with E. coli because it wasn't pasteurized. So I guess their apples fell on cow manure and they didn't pasteurize it. And so it contaminated a whole bunch of kids got sick. And so, and in my case was missed. And so I got really sick because I lived with it for several months and I almost went into shock until finally, I guess everyone thought I looked really bad. I just lived with the pain every day. And then so anyway, they missed the case, almost died, but then recovered. So after college, I started getting into the healthcare field. I started doing research and I really enjoyed it. I loved connecting with people. I loved learning about biology and healing. And there was some kind of magic that I didn't really understand at all at that time. I was in my 20s. In the end, it was all about deep healing, but it's yeah, I should apply to med school. I really want to learn how to heal. And so I got into med school, and the first year of med school, I got super sick. I mean, I was eating terribly. I had a whole bunch of immunizations that I didn't need because my family never got chicken pox. We didn't get certain diseases, so we didn't need the vaccination. And so anyway, they made me get a whole bunch of vaccinations. Then I got mono right after that. And then boom, it was the perfect storm for this really severe autoimmune disease called polyglandular autoimmune disease. And it just ate up all your endocrine glands. Whoa. So it left me bedridden. So you don't have any adrenal glands. I mean, you don't have ovary, it made me go into menopause, at age 24, 25. I was bedridden for 18 hours a day. It was a struggle to get through med school, obviously. And I developed a whole bunch of chronic pain syndromes also throughout that time period. And so that's what got me started because conventional medicine wasn't answering my questions. It wasn't, how do I heal from this? That was my question. I was how do I heal from this? And I guess maybe other people don't ask that and they're supposed to live with the disease. And I was I was not going to live with this disease. And I knew that in my heart. I knew I could heal. I just had to figure out how. And I couldn't get the answers from conventional medicine. And so that's what led me into, integrative functional medicine, changing my diet, nutritional supplements, IV vitamin C, acupuncture, psychoanalysis, sauna therapy, you name it, right? I did everything. I went to all these specialists. Got me about 30 to 40% better. It has great benefits for most chronic health conditions. It's wonderful. But honestly, it really wasn't until I totally broke down mentally. I totally just broke down and surrendered. I was I could not do it anymore. And I was so sick and so much pain. And I just asked God for help. I was like, I need help. I can't do this anymore. And that was the first time I literally had said that after 10 years of living with these diseases. And the surrender was so big. I was just crying and letting go and all of a sudden, it was within that week when I broke down, this spiritual coach, healer, mentor, I don't necessarily know what to call him, had this cancellation and he never had any openings. And no one could get into this guy because this guy was so good. He was this intuitive, he was this healer, and I got in. And that's what led me down this spiritual path of healing. And that's when, he and I really started working on connecting with my higher self, with my spirit. My first session with him was like, my spirit was thousands of miles away. Like it was gone. Like I had been through so much trauma, medically, but emotionally, spiritually, all kinds of trauma, even seeing kids, in the hospital die. It was just secondary trauma from seeing all these patients die and get sick. And, it was so hard. We never had the methods to deal with that. And so we really just released what no longer served me and worked on cleaning up kind of my physical and spiritual body, all like negative emotions and energy that were really internalized and stuck in my body, past life trauma, ancestral trauma, and even entities that shouldn't even be surrounding your spirit. And so that's where my focus started, was really going on that spiritual path. And that, medicine, conventional medicine, nor the alternative medicine could really accomplish that for people. It couldn't provide that type of healing for most individuals, which I find that it is the foundation of healing, is that spiritual foundation. And so that's what led me to get further training and open up that intuitive side of myself and really believe in that and ground myself in that. And that's when I started working with this. And when I finally made the decision to start coaching and start working with clients doing it, even though it's totally outside my my original training as a medical physician.
Yeah.
So that's my story.
Wow, I'm getting a full body chill just listening to your story, Anna, because man, there's so many parallels with your life and my life, just in a different context. But a couple of takeaways I got from what you just shared is it's fascinating that through your own personal health issues you've gone through, and this question of, okay, how do I heal? And that's what prompted you to get into medicine. But it sounds like with the conventional medicine, the words that come up is, okay, how do you treat the symptoms and how do you make it stop? But it isn't so much of how do you really heal, right? And from healing, you sort of have to go to the root cause, not just in the surface level of things. And that's where I feel, look, there's definitely a benefit and a time and place for conventional medicine. But if we're talking about something that is reoccurring, it's like, okay, well, how do you then heal? Is it alternative? What does that even mean, right? Is it, how do you define heal? Is it heal just means to let the pain go away? Because pain is just a signal of you might need to turn left, right? You have to go a different direction. And it's maybe because your body or intuition is telling you, well, you're not listening yet. So what can I do in a way where you can listen, right? Is that relatable in terms
of? Totally relatable. That's it. Yeah. And that's a lot of, before we started the recording, I was saying, a lot of some of my health symptoms started because I needed to turn left instead of continue on this path. And it was like God just being like, hey, like you need to go this way and we're going to keep giving you this pain until you learn. And it was all just a message. And then it like, poof, it goes away. It's so crazy once you listen.
It's nuts when you think about how simple, instantaneous it can be. Another thing I got from your story too is the part of when you hit literally this wall and you're like, okay, enough's enough. And it's not about giving up. It's just you surrender. And after surrender, it's then, okay, then what can I do to go with that flow rather than just like abandon ship? It's really a difference in nuance in not just the mindset, but the one thing I got was the act of even saying out loud, whether, and this doesn't have to be religious, but whether, universe, God, higher spirit, wherever it is, but just saying, I need help. To even just say those simple words, I need help, is then saying, okay, then you're ready, because you're not just, it's not only thoughts in your head that you're not expressing. And so that really caught my attention when you said that, is when you actually say it, okay, universe saying, okay, then what I need to bring into your life to help you, because you've actually asked for it, not just in your head. Right.
Yeah. And the other thing too is like, I'd do anything. Like I would give up what I needed to give up. I would choose this other path. I would make that choice. If I had to, I would do the hard work. And that's and before I was like fighting it. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. Where it was like, okay, I'm just going to go with the flow of where my true path lies. And if I stay on that path, I am going to heal.
Yeah. No, it reminds me of the quote that I've shared multiple times on my show, which is, be curious, not judgmental, right? By Walt Whitman. It's like when you have that curiosity and willing to be open-minded about it, a completely different door opens, right? I mean, with me being used to be 100% logic-based, it's like, wait, there's a whole different spectrum of the world that I'm not even aware of. And if I just be curious about it, I start asking different questions.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And yeah, for someone in science and who does research and very evidence-based, and then going into what am I doing with this, spiritual mentor or healer who's, helping you bring your spirit back and connecting and then release any foreign or negative energies. And it's like, really? And I'm telling you, I mean, I healed, and I knew it was that I could feel it in my body every time I worked with him. And I'd also learned the techniques for myself. So it's not about someone healing you. It's about you also participating in the work that you need to heal yourself, because it is day in, day out. And for me, I have to do it every day. And for me, I just soak up a lot of emotions and energy, and I'm working on it. I really am. I'm trying to do it in the moment, but I have to have time in the evening to where I decompress, release what's not mine, and then come back to who I am, and then set that intention for myself, connect with God, and, just sit with me just for a little bit. And if I don't do that, I do get sick. So I have to watch it.
Your story reminds me of a quote, which is, healing may not be so much about getting better as about letting go of everything that isn't you, all of the expectations, all of the beliefs, and becoming who you are, right? That quote is by Rachel Naomi Remen. And it just, listening to your story just resonates. I was like, oh, this is why I remember that quote.
I love her. And that's exactly what my spiritual mentor taught me, that every time we'd start a session, he would be like, Anna, he'd always call me Dr. Anna. Dr. Anna, this is all about getting back to your authentic self, your true you. And that's the healing. I was like, okay. And it finally makes sense to me now. But yes, exactly.
Love it. So Anna, you mentioned before you're a triple board certified physician. And I think you touched on this already, but your personal journey of experiencing chronic pain, experiencing these autoimmune issues, what was it that made you or influenced you to pivot to this new path?
Well, really that piece, it was a lot of my patients. And so for some reason, I would mirror a lot of the health symptoms with my patients. I don't know if I was supposed to experience their issues so I could better heal and understand their issues, because, I was not going to accept, those diagnoses, and I sure as heck was going to figure out how to heal it. And so maybe that was just part of a gift, but also a adversity. But all these patients would come to me with chronic pain and sick with autoimmune disease. A lot of women. I dealt with a lot of women and kids, was my primary patient population. And I didn't know how to take care of that. I mean, they wanted better quality of life. They wanted to heal instead of accept their diagnosis, which a lot of times in medicine, we're like, okay, you have to accept this diagnosis and this is what you're going to live with. You're going to go to therapy and you're going to, just be able to understand how to take your meds and procedures and go on with your life. And so I was like, well, no, there's got to be other answers. And so that's what led me to, after I got board certified in pediatrics, that's what led me to go on to get board certified in integrative medicine, because not only my issues, but also taking care of a lot of patients with chronic health issues, I knew they could feel better if they took care of certain aspects of their nutrition. There's a lot of nutritional insufficiencies that go undiagnosed because no one's checking it. And nutrition is what makes our tissues. It's what heals our bodies. It's part of our biochemistry. So if you're deficient in even just one nutrient, it can wreak havoc. So, and then also people who have poor prognosis with cancer, I saw a lot of people with that. And, we did IV vitamin C because their chemotherapy wasn't working. And so we had to do adjunctive IV vitamin C to help, improve their prognosis. And so a lot of it was really my patients. And the chronic pain piece was even more of an issue because I didn't learn a single thing in medical school on pain management. I don't even remember a single hour. And so I had no idea. So that's what led me to go get medical acupuncture certification, because that was strong and helping a lot of good evidence in pain, headaches, knee pain, osteoarthritis, back pain. So very, very good evidence for acupuncture. It's also an energetic healing form. And, it's always interesting because every time I would get certified and learn all these new therapies, when you apply it and practice, I always was kind of like, is this going to work? I mean, I was always a little skeptical because I'm like, how is putting needles in someone's body gonna, I was like, is this weird that I'm doing this? But oh my word, patients would get better. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, this really does work. And so every time I would just get that validation and then continue on with my studies, because medical school and conventional medicine is like a teeny, tiny, tiny, tiny piece of healing. It's very, very tiny.
Speaking of, you mentioned about acupuncture in your experiences, and, obviously you want to be very respectful. It's not to break any client privilege or anything like that, but I'm just curious is there any stories you can share? Because, that inner skeptic of, why is this going to work? But when you actually see the transformation your patients are going through, it's like, holy cow, this really does work. Can you give one or two examples of, oh my gosh, like this happened? And
one was more recent. It was a very strange case. And because I'm also certified in clinical hypnosis too. So when I started practicing, I was kind of like, well, is this going to work? People aren't going to do this. And anyway, this kid I had such significant light sensitivity. I mean, he couldn't go out during the day. He had to wait until dusk. He got these specialized goggles that would seal out any light. So they were dark goggles, and he had to wear those even sometimes indoors. And he couldn't even have light peeking through his door. It had something to do with headaches. Like anytime he got a migraine, it would flare up this light sensitivity, which is common, migraines and light sensitivity, but his would last. And so no one knew it. We did all kinds of therapies. And finally it was like, okay, well, let's try this hypnosis. Let's do this last resort. And sure enough, it took a few sessions, but he did it himself. He practiced it on his own. And it took a few sessions, but until he finally believed that he could heal, it was not until then that he could do it, that he really could heal his light sensitivity. He could overcome this challenge. When he finally believed that, when he had that breakthrough, he got rid of his goggles. He opened up his door. He started going outside. He didn't have anxiety about it. He was fine.
Wow.
So it was like, and it's really that piece of truly believing that you can heal, believing in yourself, knowing you have that power. And you do have to put in the hard work, but you can.
Oh, I'm getting the chills just listening to that, because it reminds me when I said in the previous episode of that before, it was very much seen as believing. Show me the evidence and I'll believe it. But then once I flipped the script of no, it's believing is seeing, holy moly, like it, and it's a leap of faith for some folks. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, right? What do you mean by believing is seeing? But the belief systems we install in our SOS, our subconscious operating system from a young child, 0 to 7, that we might even know still resides. It's a residuals in there. It's like, how do you, it's not about abandoning or removing, it's just upgrading it. There's a piece of you that has helped you build that defensive wall to protect you. So it's not a, you want to acknowledge that, but it's really, well, if the belief system is not serving where you want to go, it's okay to upgrade so that it can go and create that pathway for it. And so I just got chills when I'm listening to you, because yeah, it's that belief. And that's why, I think both you and I stress on that mindset portion of it. It starts with that first, because that's the gateway to what programming are you allowing to yourself to listen to, and which one do you want to upgrade?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why I love your 3 pillars, the one especially on intuition, and intuition, imagination, and voice. But when you do these types of therapies that I do, that's what we teach. I mean, that's exactly what we teach. It mirrors your 3 pillars, basically.
Yeah, it creates that inner world. But oh my goodness, wow. So in terms of your toolkit, Anna, because it sounds like you have quite a utility belt on you. So
Which one do you use?
Can you share a little bit of what are the various sessions, how you help your clients, and from a layman's perspective, that so most of my folks are non-medical, so it's just more, what are the sessions and what's a highlight and what they can do? Because what I found fascinating in knowing you, Anna, is that it seems like, again, going back to conventional medicine, it's about treatment of symptoms, but now you're in this duality of coaching where, hey, now you get to play in the root cause, which it sounds like the education that you had in getting board certified might not answer those questions you had in your mind, but this coaching opens a whole new different door and realm for you to play in. And so I'd love to understand, what are some of the toolkits that you offer, and how does that help given certain situations?
Yeah, and I even totally tried to bring in this coaching into our system, and it was just roadblock after roadblock, and nearly impossible with the insurance governing all that you can do as a doctor. And so this is what led me to create my own toolkit and some of these sessions that I offer, because yes, medicine and going to your doctor and your healthcare professional and specialist is amazing and can do wonders, but it's difficult to find deep and ultimate complete healing with it. And so this is why I created what I've created. And my biggest services that I do, and the reason why I do them, is because I know my business is called Health is PowHer, and I do primarily treat a lot of women, and I have a lot of women clients. I also take care of men too. And so everyone asks me, like, I still help men, but I do individual sessions with men, because the group coaching programs that I have are one for women with chronic pain and one for women with autoimmune disease, because those are, the 2 major health issues that I had and healed from. And the reason why I do it for primarily women is because the support from like-minded women is incredibly healing. It's like we really help one another through intention and encouragement. We lift each other up, and this sisterhood that's really super powerful. And so I find it is much more beneficial and more powerful in a group coaching program for women than just a one-on-one session for chronic pain by itself, for example. And so I do my group coaching programs for women with chronic pain and autoimmune disease. And then I do individual sessions for those that it might fit better with. So like right now I'm doing, I teach self-hypnosis and tapping. So self-hypnosis is learning how to do your own hypnosis, which most people think that you hypnotize the patient or you hypnotize the client, but that's actually very difficult to do. It's if you do your own hypnosis, it is 1,000 times more powerful and more beneficial if you do it for yourself. So my big thing, and so what I do for my patients, so I have my own practice, and then I also have my coaching and my own individual hypnosis sessions. But If you learn self-hypnosis, you can do it on your own every single day for any symptom, any health issue, and you have that power instead of relying on someone else to give it to you. And so really how I learned clinical hypnosis is to teach people how to do it for themselves. And it's really quite easy. You just have to give them the structure. You have to help them intuitively in the beginning. Some people do need help when they first start, because if they have difficulty with sitting still or have had trauma, I do have to work with them a little bit more and teach them tapping and some emotional freedom technique and some energy healing before we get into full, hypnosis. But most of the time, self-hypnosis, it's just like intuitive healing for the most part, just a little bit different, but it treats a lot of problems like urinary urgency or bladder issues, constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, abdominal pain, insomnia, racing thoughts, anxiety, headaches, migraines, functional neurologic disorder. I mean, tics, you name it, just a lot of chronic symptoms that are difficult to treat otherwise in the medical system. And my other one that I do is more medical intuitive sessions that help people discover what's going on at the root cause behind the chronic health issues that are otherwise not discovered by labs, by either conventional or integrative doctors. It's more tuning into what's going on behind the spiritual, energetic, emotional field of the individual and teaching them intuitive healing methods to heal themselves. So those are my primary sessions that I offer people, because that's what I've used in practice. And that's what I find works for people empowering themselves to learn how to heal themselves day in, day out.
Got it. Wow, that is quite a wide breadth of tools, but it's fantastic because then anytime a situation arises, here's a solution. Let's try this, because again, it just depends on what are the belief systems someone might already currently have downloaded, and then you just work with that because everyone's going to be at different levels, right?
And everyone's higher self, everyone has an ability to heal, but they use different methods.
Yes.
So hypnosis might not be right for a certain someone, and then a medical, you know what I mean? It's just
100%.
You're just going to have to tune in to what their higher self needs. And that's why I also do, honestly, I have to do, a quick call, a free chat with everyone that comes to me, because we kind of have to figure out what is the best fit for them. And if I'm not a right fit, then I definitely, will help them with other resources. But yes, that's what I prefer, because everyone heals in their own way.
Yeah. Our latest episode, we had Dr. Yvonne come on board, and I shared this quote because I'm a huge fan of Dr. Bruce Lipton, but it's a moment you change your perception is a moment you rewrite the chemistry of your body. But everyone's perception will change with different trigger points. And so one method might work for one person, might not necessarily work for another, and it's just finding the right fit. And if you're just in that space of serving, I may or may not be the right fit. And if I'm not, this might be another option you can go to. But that's just, you got to be able to have that curiosity to want to change that perception.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love Dr. Bruce Lipton too. Love him.
Okay. So another question is, kind of setting the record straight. From Western medicine to a holistic practitioner, what is one common misconception about alternative medical practices that you've seen the general public just tends to misunderstand?
Oh, yeah, this is a great question. The biggest one I would say is that the general public has of alternative or complementary or integrative therapies is that it's not as good as medicine. As conventional medicine. And so, because I also think the healthcare system is like the main health system is what we all think of. Okay, not everyone thinks of this, but a majority of the public think that the healthcare system, conventional medicine, that's the main medicine. And it's not. It really isn't. And it's not as good as one or the other. Integrative medicine or all these other therapies may not be as good as, an acute, urgent, symptomatic need. And So it's all in different context. The other thing too is that it's dangerous. And this is actually the view of the healthcare system more so than the public. And unfortunately, they haven't read up on the research and the evidence and the practice that's been around for thousands and thousands of years. And the same thing goes for conventional medicine, because a lot of what we have in conventional medicine isn't evidence-based. So it's just a little bit of different context in that there is this almost like a battle against one another when we really need to combine our forces and use all the tools that we can to help the individuals. But instead, there is this, ego practice that's going on that doesn't allow integrative therapies to flourish as much as they should and get out to the public as much as they should. So that's why I started Health is PowHer, because health is number one. Without health, we don't have much. And so I really wanted to promote that by also sharing all the evidence that's out there for all these different kinds of therapies and modalities, plus conventional care that you also, maybe should follow for certain conditions. And so that way, when you have your health, you're able to live out your purpose and share your gifts with others on this earth. And so, that was a big thing for me, is like, I don't want to be disabled. I don't want to have to, lay in bed for 18 hours a day. I want to go and help people and share my gifts. And so that was a big piece for me in creating this.
Which, to that note, Anna, is I love the work you do because it's so needed, especially in this day and age right now. And so it leads to my next question about your brand. Health is PowHer. I love that phrase. So I tell me more what inspired you to come up with that specific phrase, but also the work that you do.
Yeah. So I really wanted to focus on women because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but women's health are really underrepresented in medicine, because a lot of the research that took place as the foundation of our current conventional healthcare was done on men. And so it didn't take into understanding of our menstrual cycle, of our biology, of our hormones, and how they play a role in all our different organ systems. So really, and it's actually known, I think this actually has been published several times, is that women's health, it's not where it should be today. And so I really wanted to focus on that, as well as promote this sisterhood and this community, because we really need to lift each other up as women. I am coming from a place where when I went through school and in my career, I'm academic, I'm a clinical associate professor. We're very competitive women, where we are trying to achieve and accomplish. And what I noticed was, a lot of us in this field, this medical academic field, we want to tear each other down and we want to sabotage each other and we want to get ahead of one another. And so it really just hurt my heart so much, because I want to bring everyone together. I want to be friends with everyone. And I know that's so much more healing and so much more powerful when you connect and you get together and you collaborate versus trying to outcompete one another. And so a part of that was also the reason why I wanted to create this community of women uplifting other women, because it is so healing. And health is a big deal for me, because I love that aspect of healing, that everyone should be able to heal and really, truly live their higher self's purpose on this earth.
Just listening to that, Anna, it reminds me of, my previous chapter when I was an investment officer, because, not only is everything energy, but money is also energy too, right? And when you're in that realm, again, that same level of competitiveness, right? It's like you smell the blood, and going in for the kill, right? For just being that shark, like it's very prevalent in that environment. And what I'm hoping people can start understanding is, hey, when you tap into the source, it's limitless. And knowing that there's ways to create sustainability and coexist without that level of competitiveness. Yes, there's times where you need to bring out that fire in you, but at the same time, it's to what intention, right? Is it for short-term gain or is it for long-term sustainability, right? There's different intentions that create different actions and different decisions that you might need to make, right? And so I get it. I'm totally with it on that. And I love the fact, again, that health is PowHer is such a great energy behind those words.
Thanks.
I
Thanks so much.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so in terms of like the mind, body, and soul, right? Creating that alignment, what are some habits or actions you do, whether it's daily or weekly, that you've incorporated in your routine to help you balance your mind, body, and soul?
Oh yeah. Okay. I do a lot, but the biggest thing that I do is I totally listen to my body all day long. And I listen to what it needs. And if it needs rest, I am going to rest. If I need exercise, I'm going to exercise. And I do need to decompress, as I said, every single day. I totally need that time to reflect. And during medical school and residency, or during my busy times when I don't reflect and I don't sit with myself. So how I do that, and everyone does a little bit differently. So some people have different meditations, and I combine an intuitive meditation, healing, hypnosis, connection with God and my spirit, like all in one. And, typically it can range from anywhere 10 to 30 minutes a day. But it just totally, I release all the energy that's not my own through a grounding cord to Mother Earth. And then I fill my spirit back up with God and connect with God. And then I also connect with me. And I just listen. I totally just listen. And I'm like, okay, what do I need in this moment? And I just listen for the message. Sometimes it takes a few minutes, sometimes it's instant, and I just go with it. And whatever comes to me, whether it be images, pictures, movie, a memory, or even just hearing something, it's my intuition speaking, it's God speaking, it's what I need to do, and what I need to pay attention to. So that's my main thing, I would say, in addition to all like nutrition and taking care of my body and everything. But that spirit piece is really super important, because I will get sick. I do. And if I miss out on this, I get sick. Like I just did with my sinus infection right now, because I was so busy taking care of my family that, I couldn't have time to do this.
Yeah, I get that. I really do, because, I shared in episode 35, it's this question of, are you running a business to create a life of your dreams, or are you running a busyness that's consuming your dreams? And you have to be able to give your moments the space and grace to pause and reflect that, whether it's that decompression. You have to, if it needs to, put it in your calendar and carve out 30 minutes, whatever it is, because I live religiously on my phone. If it's on my calendar, I'm not going to do it. And so that's a system that works for me. But it's this duality of, are you running a business to serve what you want to get out of life, or this busyness, whether even if you have a corporate career, whatever it is. And it's just, you got to give yourself that space.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, I went and did psychoanalysis too as one of my therapies for all my other, symptoms. And the first thing he said to me, I think you're busy tranquilizing yourself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that totally makes sense. Because if we maintain, and this is why a lot of people have tough time meditating as well, because when we busy ourselves and we don't pay attention to the difficult emotions, the memories, the issues that we do need to deal with and flush out of our bodies and spirit. And so, busy tranquilizing yourself is just that, so that you don't have to deal with that gunk that you do need to. A lot of times when people can't meditate, it's just that. It's like all of a sudden everything comes back, the anxiety, the stress, the to-do list, and so it's it hurts. And so it takes sometimes a little bit to release that energy, calm down that energy, and finally sit alone with yourself, because it's so wonderful to be with yourself.
And the thing I want my audience to know too is, in knowing that the healing can be difficult because it starts with that inner reflection first. Yes, it's work that you need to do yourself. At the same time, you don't have to do it alone. And that's why I feel, the community you created with health is PowHer and having community to be able to do it together is so empowering, because it doesn't mean you have to just do this in a very lonely journey. But if you have the right, I call it soil, right? The environment, the people you're surrounding yourself with to be able to cultivate the inner work and the outer work that you need to do, it makes this journey that much more enjoyable rather than it being a lonely road.
Yeah. And that reminds me of you always talk about like movies and little analogies in your podcast. So I'm going to mention Legend of Korra. Have you seen Legend of Korra yet? That cartoon, that
That's a cartoon. Yeah.
Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm,
Well,
mm-hmm.
anyway, so they talk a lot about the principles that we talk on both of our podcasts. And one of them is what you had just mentioned about that our inner reality also reflects our outer reality. And it's funny because this community that we want to create, a very healing community, uplifting, supportive of one another, being there for one another. You're not alone. You're never alone. And this cartoon showed how our emotions, our negativity, this gunk that we carry or misery that we can carry can affect everyone else. And so it just reminds me of one of the cartoon episodes in where Korra, this spirit bender, she gets a temper tantrum, and then everywhere around her, all the creatures turn into monsters. They were nice creatures and they all turn into monsters because she's having a temper tantrum, a negative emotional meltdown. And so everyone else becomes negative around her. And so that it's very similar. So our like attracts like, our energy can promote the energy around us. So our inner energy promotes our outer energy. And so it's a principle. It's a law.
I love it. I'm really curious to check out that cartoon, but
You will love it.
Yeah, it sounds like I definitely will. And I love the fact that we're speaking the same soul language. It's on this interview because it so resonates. And it's something I just was not aware of growing up, because my family is Buddhist, but at the same token, with whether it's through schooling or even just in our social circles, like it wasn't a common language being shared with my peers. But now, and since creating Boom Vision and this new journey, it's, oh my God, I think people just need to understand that more, and if it resonates, to how to lean in on it more, because 100% what energy you have that you're attracting is probably what you're emitting. So what can you do to change your inner energy of it? And that starts with thought and belief system, all the above, so that then you're attracting the right opportunities, the right people, the right life partners, whatever it is, to grow together. Oh my
100%.
goodness. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. Okay, so a couple more questions. One is action steps for our audience. For those that may be experiencing either chronic pain or autoimmune issues, what is one or two advice you can share to help them on their journey of alleviating or healing from it? And I'll preface, look, I'm not a doctor, so this is more of just inspiration for people to have really the courage and confidence, from that perspective.
Oh yeah. And disclaimer, I'm not your medical doctor either, but but yes, there is, and this is like probably my top advice that I give to all my clients and all my patients, because a lot of times when I see, and I work with a lot of women and kids, and so what I see is that they don't make themselves a priority. They are not the top priority in their social circle, in their family, in their environment. They don't invest in themselves. They don't give themselves any time. They give all away their energy to everyone else. And it's like they leave nothing for themselves. And so it kind of like it drains them, and it's like almost tearing them apart a little bit. It's like a little piece kind of goes with everyone else that they give their energy to. And so that is my biggest takeaway for most of my people that I work with, is they are amazing, and they don't even know how amazing they are as this wonderful individual that was created on this earth. And I mean, they are really meant to do something here. They're meant to be who they are. I mean, that's exactly what they're meant to do, is just be themselves, connect with their higher self, their true spirit. And I mean, just that beauty of being themselves just creates healing.
Yeah. Such a great reminder, Anna, because yeah, you can't give from an empty well. And if you don't acknowledge that or prioritize yourself in the equation first, then things like, autoimmune or other things might pop up where it's like, you know what, if you're not going to take a break, then let's do this or you have to take a break. Right? And that's a very harsh way of coming to reality. But sometimes that people have to go through experience to understand just how much of a low fuel, empty tank that they've been operating, because it's always just been serving others. So I can appreciate what you're sharing, and it's a good reminder for people to hear that.
Yeah, and it's just like what you said about how you as a transformational coach and building that foundation. I mean, this is like the top piece of that foundation is just putting themselves first because they have to in order to heal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's that pamphlet whenever you fly where, anytime oxygen tanks come down, as much as you want to give it to your kid first, like you got to put it on yourself to be able to put it, because it doesn't help you if you're passed out and you can't even help your loved ones around you, right? And so it's a different priority and order. Right?
Yeah, and that what you said earlier, and that everything is energy. I mean, it really is. It's like anytime you are giving your time or your love, or you could be giving little tiny bits of your energy away if you're not careful. And it's just like that. If you give, that oxygen, that energy to your kid first, I mean, you're not going to be able to be around much longer, right? Because you're not going to be giving that energy, that oxygen to yourself, and you're going to be passed out pretty soon. So you're not going to help anybody. So yeah, it's all energy.
Yeah. One of the questions I ask my guests is, if the DeLorean was real and a time machine exists where you can travel back 10 years ago to a younger self, what would you say to that Anna and advice that you would share with her?
Yeah, this is a good one. And actually, I think I'm going to listen to this one podcast too, because they say that time travel does exist. So I got to send that to you.
Please do. Please do. I'd love to listen to it.
I haven't listened to it yet, but I was like, what? That you don't need to define your worth by what other people think of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't need to define your worth by what other people think of you or what other people want you to do. And so that was a big thing for me on my healing journey, is that every time I would try to impress other people, be validated by my career, society, friends, anytime I did things that maybe wasn't what my spirit, my true higher self wanted, I would get sick. That was my message. Pain, sickness, symptoms, I would get sick. And so that was a big lesson I learned about a decade ago. Wish I learned it sooner, but all in good time.
Thank you for sharing that. I really felt those words when you were saying that. So thank you. Anna, where can our listeners find you?
Well, I have a new website. It's healthispowher.com. And we have a podcast as well that we mentioned. It's Health is PowHer's podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. And so, yeah, you can find me there. If you need to chat with me, you can go on the website, links to my calendar. All my services are on there too. That explains it all. We're on Instagram as well, Facebook, all the places at Health is PowHer. So happy to talk to you. You can always DM me if you want. And if you guys have any topics that you want me to talk about, I can always research them and then put it on the podcast for you. So just let me know. But yeah, I'm so happy to have been here. It's so fun talking to you. I just love it. I can't wait for you to be on our podcast.
Yeah, no, I would love that. And, first of all, all your information will all be included in the show notes. So, we'll definitely have all those resources for our listeners to be able to reach out to you, because, one thing I just want to say that I really appreciate, it was actually Heather, who was our previous guest, that connected us, because she had you on her show, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I just knew energetically, okay, I gotta have Anna on my show. It's like there's just warmness to you, and just knowing your story. Not only do I hear parallels of what I went through, not necessarily medical, but just from a professional perspective. But what I wanted to say is, when I see you and I feel your energy, it just reminds me of this like lighthouse. There's all this like dark fog, and it's like, how do you just shine more light for helping people to guide through it? And I just felt that warmth, and I just wanted to share that with you, Anna, that just keep going, because brighter you shine, the more you're helping to pave the way, but also to let light in yourself. You know what I mean? Because like you said, you can't give from an empty well. So I don't know. The message just came across in the imagery. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Ben. I'm going to cry. That's so nice.
Yeah,
I needed it too. It's been such a hard month. So, that felt good. Thank you so much. Yeah. Again, it's just like that. Those words are so powerful and I mean, so uplifting and so healing too. And just, talking about people like that and just lifting them up and commenting about their strengths is like, it makes a difference. Huge.
Yeah.
So thank you.
No. So thank you. I so appreciate your time today, Anna. And I have a hunch that we're probably going to invite you back on a show for another topic, because I think there's a whole plethora of things we can dive into, especially just knowing the path that you're creating is so important. And I just feel more people need to hear it. And so very grateful. Thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to have you back on our next show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Anna. Folks, I hope you enjoyed today's interview as much as I have. The biggest takeaway I got from today's interview is making yourself a top priority. Invest in yourself. Give yourself space and time, and connect with your higher self. Life can sometimes feel like it's pulling you in all different directions. It may throw you some curveballs or roadblocks, but if you prioritize your own health as a top priority in your life, if you can approach life with an open curiosity and start strengthening your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, this may help you shift from surviving to thriving. You got this. If you enjoyed today's interview, please share this episode with your loved ones and friends that you feel can benefit. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button so that we can thrive together and live an enriching life physically, mentally, and spiritually. Until next time, folks, be kind to yourself. Be in the light. Be you. Thank you so much for tuning in to my Boom Vision podcast. If you'd like to find out more about me and this podcast, head over to benjaminyeh.com. That's spelled BenjaminYeh.com. If you haven't already, click subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.